Hey guys, it's Ibern here, and today I want to talk about one of my new favorite commanders I made. And he's not seeing a lot of play right now, as well as I think he's just underwhelmed build around. So today we're going to be talking about the Witch King of Angmar. This glorious Witch King is 5/3 for 3 and 2 black, a legendary creature Wraith Noble with flying, and whenever one or more creatures deals combat damage to you, each opponent sacrifices a creature that dealt damage to you this way. Then the ring tempts you, and then discard a card. Witch King of Angmar gets indestructible until end of turn and tap it. So when I first saw this commander spoiled, I was immediately decided to build a Voltron deck for it. I thought he was so cool that he had both flying and a way to protect himself, as well as an incentive for people to not attack you with his first ability. And that's also the ability most people remember. So first we're going to start off with the first section, which is card draw for the deck. We got Bag of Holding, which is a great way to get back the cards you discard to protect the Witch King. You're going to be discarding cards throughout the game either to protect him or use one of your other things through something like Madness or any of the enchantments that have triggered abilities depending on what you discard. So Bag of Holding is great for getting them back, as well as allowing you to draw and discard to even add to it in the first place if you need to, because Black definitely struggles with card draw, especially in the Voltron strategy. Next up is Black Market Connections. It's a little more on the pricey side, but it's very good for 3 mana, allowing you to get a life, or get a treasure for a life, draw a card, and make a 3/2, which is also a Wraith, which will help you with your Nazgul. All around, it's just a solid card that can help you accelerate into getting Witch King out, and having some ways to block as well. Third one I add is a newer card from Phyrexial B1, Zenith Chronicler. It can go in any deck because it's colorless, but I like it here because we're playing monocolor, meaning that my opponents won't get any cards off me, but I'll get cards off them. It sometimes has dissuaded people from playing multicolor spells, but usually not, especially since it's only the first one, so they only have to bite the bullet once, but it definitely helps to refill your hand after discarding. Some enchantments I want to bring to note are ones like Season of the Witch, which is a pretty strange one. Uh, there's an oracle text I read, but basically it has an upkeep of paying 2 life. It's not cumulative, and then each creature that doesn't have summoning seasons has to attack on the combat if they can, and if not, they're destroyed on end step. For the Witch King, does not care. You can attack with them or not, and discard to protect them at the end of turn. But you're probably gonna be attacking, so it doesn't really matter to you. But for your opponents who want to keep creatures back for either blockers or something like that, they're going to have to attack, especially with their flyers. And they could attack you, but that also means they're going to lose the creature. So to prevent that, they'll probably attack someone else, meaning that they'll have no blockers and you won't be taking damage. But even if you do take some damage, you'll still get the ring temps you trigger, which is fine. Next up, I want to go into some ways to gain life in the deck, just because you're going to be smacking people, and you're going to want to be able to trade and also be ahead of the game, so you're not just getting smacked down on the crackback, because you should be hitting for a good amount of damage with the Witch King. One of them is going to be Lockshot on Warhammer, which brings your commander up to 8 attack base, gives him trample and lifelink, which means almost nothing is going to be able to stop you from getting through, especially since you can give him indestructible in response to blocks after he's already tapped. And Shadow Spear, which is great all around for both removing your opponent's stuff that have hexproof or indestructible, as well as giving him the much needed trample and lifelink. It's also really easy to tutor out with lands like Urza Saga, or just the Demonic Tutor, which I use to get about any artifact I need for the deck. For pump spells for the deck, you have Blackblade Reforged, which is just one of the best cards you can have. I like to tutor for it a lot. It's definitely something I've killed people with the most, just because you tend to have at least like 7, 8 lands by the time you get out, and that's a big buff to Witch King, meaning you could usually one shot or two shot somebody with it, especially if you already hit them for like 5 damage. So that one's just a slam dunk in the deck. You got Bloodforged Battle Axe, which I really like because it's cheap. Brings them up to 7 attack, which means you can 3-hit kill somebody and continue to make more, which will then in turn make him bigger. Cranial Plating is another one I like. One for the instant speed equip, as well as being able to make him a lot bigger. One of the reasons it's pretty nice in this deck is because I run 30 artifacts, and usually you'll at least have like 5 or 6 on the board, which is nice for 3 mana to pump them up that much. One I think is kind of fun, though you don't really have to use Eldrazi Conscription. It'll bring up to a good 15 attack with Annihilator 2 and Trample. And all around, it's just good for finishing people off as well as just ruining their board. And I just like it 'cause it's just a big spell and it replaces artifacts when I don't have ones that can pop them up enough to kill somebody. Just like Blackblade Reforged, Lashrith is a really good one that does pretty much the same thing, except it provides Germ. And yeah, but I guess it could be a little worse depending on it, the how many utility lines you have in play. But with Urborg out, you should have no problems there. It's another way to just kill somebody, maybe kill two players in over the turn cycle or two turn cycles. A similar card that I don't see as much play is a Stratascythe, which you can use to imprint one of your swamps. And I think I read 18 or 19, and it counts not just your swamps in play, but everyone's swamps in play, which allows you to then gain like between like let's say like 5 and 8 attack power, even more. Another way to just one shot someone out of nowhere. For recursion spells, since you're going to be discarding some cards to keep Witch King indestructible and keep him around, you have stuff like Crucible Worlds, which allows you to get back lands from the Catacombs, which brings in the initiative mechanic, which allow you to both get a land to hand when it goes, and then also take it back or keep it, depending if people want to attack you or if they take it from you and you want to smack them. You can also escape it again if you please. One of my favorite cards in this deck is Hakon, which allows you to play knights from your graveyard. Has to be in the graveyard yourself, which is very easy in this deck because once it's in your hand, Witch King can discard it and put it in the graveyard. I will note that with Bag of Holding, out, you do not want to discard this because it'll be stuck with Battle Holding, which means you have to pay it to get back to your hand. And if Bag Holding gets removed, then he's just exiled forever. So I'll say watch out for that. But besides that, he's great for this deck because he lets you play the Nazgul from your graveyard because they are indeed knights. Moving on, we have Mikaeus, which will pump up your Nazgul and your commander. It was also giving them Undying in case there's a board wipe that like Toxic Deluge where Witch King will not be able to survive. And he also has Intimidate, so you get some good damage. Sword of Light and Shadow I like a lot in this deck for the same kind of reason. Gives you some life and brings back a creature to your hand you can use to discard again. And also is Pro Black, which is actually pretty useful since I only have one card in this deck that targets the Witch King. And it'll avoid stuff like Deadly Rollick, which I have ran into quite a few times. Speaking of creatures for the deck, Nazgul is the main thing you gotta do. I know they're between like 12 and like $15, so if you can prox them, that's totally like good. I used Etsy to get way cooler versions of them than the four I own. I just put them in another deck. Those are definitely one of the ways without artifacts to pop up the Witch King. Though I only have 8 of them myself because Witch King is the ninth, and if it's more thematically, I really don't think I need more than 8. I don't need the extra one. Other creatures in this deck more play as removal than just like your basic blockers and attackers, like Archfiend of Ifnir, which combined with the Witch King will allow you to discard as many cards in your hand to swipe the board of your opponent's stuff if they're attacking you with something, or make their stuff significantly smaller. Big Game Hunter is also another good one. You only need to have 1 mana up with your Witch King to discard and kill something 4 or greater, and then have another blocker. Custodialich brings the Monarch into the game, which is something you can usually hold on to unless people attack you with a lot of things, and you can just take it right back from them, and also can get rid of a creature. For board wipes, Damnation is my favorite to go to. 4 mana gets the job done, and you can get Witch King to have indestructible in response and be the only thing left on the board. Decree of Pain is my other one I like to go to. It is more expensive, but you can cycle it to kill smaller things for 5. But if you pay the full 8, which you usually have a good amount of mana in this deck, then you can draw a bunch of cards to refill your hand and use them to use either madness mechanics, discard shenanigans, or just keeping the Witch King alive. Lastly, for board wise, we have Mandate of Abaddon, which is from the Warhammer precon. And with your Witch King being at least 5 attack, you'll usually just kill everything else on the board. And if not, you just need to just buff them up a little more and it should be able to take care of everything. And you don't even have to discard a card to keep them alive this time. For other cool like madness interaction, we also have Shadowgrange Archfiend, which you can do for 3 mana and 8 life by discarding him, and it'll kill your opponent's best thing on their board most likely, and then you'll gain life equal to its toughness. Or I guess it's to its power. But yeah, it gives you a lot of life, especially to make up for what you lost and take down your opponent's best creatures. For other removal, we have Sword of Sinew and Steel, which is another one that gives Pro Black Red, protects you from Blasphemous Act, and then can hit an artifact, which is pretty interesting in black because there's only I think 2 cards I can think of, like Portal to Phyrexia, I think it's called, or maybe it's or like Phyrexia Portal, the old like $60 one, and then Gateway to Phyrexia, maybe that's what it's called, and then like a 3 mana like, old black card for Stronghold or something that lets you sacrifice 2 creatures to hit an artifact, which is very bad in this deck. So be able to hit your opponent and then destroying an artifact on not even their side, could be any of your opponents, and also a Planeswalker if you need to, is very important in this deck for some of the artifacts that are pretty powerful you can't interact with. Ramp in this deck that you're going to need to go to is Bitterthorn Nissus Animus, which is like a little over like $12. You can get down early, get some ramp in, or play it later to equip to your commander, make him a little bigger. Bantu's Monument reduces both your Nazgul and your commander's casting costs while also draining people out. A Brass Squire allows you to get more artifacts on your commander without having to waste the mana. I like Cloud Key in this deck just because I'm running 30 artifacts and having any of them reduced just makes it a lot easier on my turn. And then Cryptgas, you want in any black deck no matter what, for especially mono color to be able to just like double your up your mana. I really like Dowsing Dagger in this deck because you can play it immediately, give it to your commander, has flying, they can't block with the things, and then you can hit them for 7 damage, which is a 3-hit clock, or 3-hit kill, and then you can immediately flip it for another 3 mana. Expedition map is nice in this deck to get you either Ursa Saga, which can later get you something like Shadow Spear, or you can just get it for Urborg, Cabal Coffers, or even Lake of the Dead in this deck, which I like for just a burst of mana. Jet Medallion just got reprinted, and it's a slam dunk in this deck for making sure you can cast your commander on curve or even earlier, and as well as all the other black creatures. I like Locomotive Torque in here just to turn stuff into artifacts for either pumping up Cranial Plating or letting Sword of Sinew and Steel kill it, and just a decent mana rock. Sevarog's Tomb is another one that introduces initiative into the game, and it's pretty much a full 4 mana Soul Ring, but if you complete the dungeon, then you can start playing stuff from the top of your deck for free. Got Soul Ring, of course. They gotta have that. Solemn Simulacrum, another great ramp for monocolored decks. Sort of Feast and Famine I like here just because untaps your lands, gets you value and more protection from black and from green, and then makes Witch King bigger. Sword of Fortune Frontier is another one that I like for this deck just because it lets you get more value from connecting with people and playing more lands because sometimes you'll have dead cards in your hand you want to get rid of before using them for the Witch King, or you can play them from the top so that the next cards will actually be better for you to play. Also, Blasphemous Act Protection. And then the last 2 swords you got here are Sword of Hearth and Home and Sword of the Animus, which both will get you a land. Sword of Hearth and Home is great also for flickering stuff like the Archfiend I said from earlier, or Solemn Simulacrum, or even your commander to get them untapped and re-equip stuff, which I've done before. Some miscellaneous cards I have in here. We have Demonic Tutor and Sting the Glinting Dagger. Sting is in here just for providing haste, make the commander bigger, and also allowing you to block on more turns. In case someone has something really big. And Indestructible Blocker is pretty good at doing his defending job. Demonic Tutor for just getting whatever artifact I need at the time, maybe sometimes a board wipe. You don't have any way to tutor artifacts in this deck besides like an Inventor's Fair or something like that. So you gotta take what you can get. And this is the only tutor I run just because it's very effective for what I want to do. Lastly, we have finishers from the miscellaneous, which is besides just commander damage, we have Vorpal Sword. Great way of just one-shotting someone out of nowhere, especially late in the game when you have a lot of mana, and then also Tainted Strike, which does that even better, but of course taking out one player. I only use it when someone's really a problem, and taking them out will definitely improve the quality of the game, and also not like inhibit me for killing the other 2 players a little later. For discard outlets, similar to what the creature removal ones, we have Bone Miser and Feast of Sanity. Bone Miser can let you churn through your deck as long as you're discarding non-creature, non-land cards, or just provide you with value with the other 2. And then Feast of Sanity will allow you to ping down your opponent's stuff when discarding through either the Ring Temps You trigger on attack, or just one of the ways for protecting Witch King. I like it a lot just for getting life, and just being able to kill smaller things and dissuade people from attacking you. For evasion, we have Filth, which is just easy to discard from your hand. You already have Swamp Walk now, and then you just need to play Herbor, or if it's already out, or if they just have a Swamp, you can get in with not having to even worry about flying blockers. And then Sword of Vengeance, which will bring your commander up to 7 attack, give him Vigilance, First Strike, Trample, and Haste, which will make him win most things. I don't have any ways to give Death Touch in this deck, but that has not been relevant. Some other ways to protect your commander are Hammer of Nazan, which just lets you do similar to what your commander has, give it indestructible. You don't have to discard something for it. Brings up to 7 attack, and it'll let you automatically equip your other equipment to him, which is pretty great when you have at least like 15 equipment in the deck. Lightning Greaves, just like Swiftwood Boots, both do the same sort of thing you want. I will say Lightning Greaves can sometimes be a little tough because you don't have that many creatures in the deck, so I say beware. I usually save it for later once I have a couple equipment on it, since you're not gonna be able to equip stuff if you can't move it. Besides that, Strength of Lunacy is my one targeting in the deck that you can Madness out for 1 black. It's a good little combat chip to protect you against Path and Swords and similar things to that want to exile your commander when they can't kill it through Indestructible, and also brings them up to a 7 attack. The last one I really like in this deck is Not of This World because it's a 7 mana counterspell, but you must be wondering like, oh, well, your commander has 5 attacks, so it's not going to work out because you can't get the reduction. But 9 out of 10 times, I've never had a problem with this myself, but like almost every equipment in this deck gives my commander enough to get him over 7 attack or at 7 attack. So you should have no problem with being able to use this. And I've used this multiple times, counting stuff like Deadly Relic or even Path to Exile, and I really like it in this deck. It's definitely useful. And if for some reason you can't get it for the reduced mana, then just discard it to your commander and give him indestructible. Like, that's really all it is to it. Very cool card though. Over lands. I don't have Inventor Sphere yet. I plan to get one for it, but that's definitely one you want to add in here. Besides that, some notable ones are stuff like Bonder's Enclave, which makes sense for the Commander, Buried Ruin to get back stuff, Cabal Coffers, and Cabal Stronghold, of course. Fateful Passage for some synergy with Crucible Worlds. Lake of the Dead Burst, Myriad Landscape for just getting ramp. Nykthos, you don't have to run it here. I don't have that much black pips, but it tends to at least net you more than you pay, which is great for Weekend's Commander. Opal Palace just for making him bigger if he's killed a couple times. Reliquary Tower is also not one that you don't have to put in here, but I've tended to have good Decree of Pains where I end up filling up my hand, and I do not want to discard them, so I have more ways to protect my commander or synergize with other discard outlets. Rogue's Passage is probably the most important land you can have in here, just for making sure you get in for damage, especially later in the game, where people do have blockers or ways to stop you from attacking. Caesar's Storehouse can do a similar thing, but of course you have to hope they don't have any black flyers, which means unless you're playing like a Kali or a Demon deck, or I guess something with artifacts, you usually don't have to worry about it. Besides that, another one similar to Rogue's Passage, which just recently came out, is the Black Gate. And as long as you're not at the most life, or tied, I guess even if you're tied for the most life, then you can hit someone with unblockable practically. Similar to Rogue's Passage, even cheaper. And then yeah, lastly, Urza Saga, War Room, and Witch's Clank are all very solid in this deck. Urza Saga lets you get 4 or 5 different artifacts. I like to get Shadow Sphere with most time. Bag of Holding you can get 2 or Soul Ring. War Room just lets you draw a card. You're playing monocolor, you only lose a life. And then Witch's Clinic for hitting people for a lot of damage. You're probably gonna get hit back, even with dissuading people. It's very good to help you here. It also goes just great for to be able to like synergize just like having a lot of life. One more thing I will mention is that just like your commander's first static ability, No Mercy is a great addition to this deck. It does seem a little redundant, but it also does any target, and I went against a Shalai Halar deck recently, and because any damage from them hitting me would kill their commander, they couldn't hit me for super late in the game, and I was just able to take them out. Having that redundancy, especially since it can kill any creature, will just make people want to attack you even less. And overall, I find this deck to be a very fun Voltron deck. Seems like a lot more interesting than Yargle and Coilash, since you have a lot you can do with your discard, Monarch, just straight up damage, initiative, anything like that. There's more stuff you can run. You can make it a full Madness deck if you wanted to, though I know Anya Falcon Wrath kind of does that better. So I definitely prefer this guy for my Voltron deck. I have one other Voltron. It's Mistform Ultimus, just around just Lord effects and making them big with artifacts and just anything that pumps in blue, which is pretty fun. So I definitely prefer like Voltron Hipster. But yeah, if you're looking for a fun Voltron deck that's actually pretty hard to kill for the most part, I would say, yeah, definitely give Witch King a try. There's a lot you can do with them. I always enjoy my time, and other people seem to enjoy playing against him for the most part. Um, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm going to do some more on some underplayed, underwhelming commanders I don't see a lot that I like to play. So yeah, take care. Have a good one.